So, thank you, and I'd like to thank first BTL and Sonia for allowing us to talk and kind of wade in and talk about our test centre network. Obviously, we've heard a lot about what BTL's is, and a lot of similarities in some ways, and differences in others. So we'll go through this. There's a few slides I'll probably just need to flick through. But what I want to cover today, and it is very similar, it's the candidate focus, the setup of the test centre. These test centres are there all the time. So Paul mentioned earlier about the 6,000 global test centres that we have across the world. I'm going to concentrate on a smaller subset section of that. There are professional test centres, and so they're there all the time, the continuous testing locations. And I'll talk about the coverage as well. I did have some fancy software that I could scoot around the globe, but technology has done us in there, never mind. I'll skip that because that was all about Paul's. I realised, having seen Paul's presentation this morning, that you covered everything about Prometric, so I'll skip from there. So first of all, our test centres. So, our aim is to provide a secure and honest place for candidates to sit their tests. It's pretty high up there as far as the requirements that we need for our test centres. And why is that? Because if we've got two candidates coming into our test centre doing the same test, and one's there, he's learnt or she's learnt all the stuff, and there's no other aids that they've got with them to take that test. It's a bit unfair if they're then sat next to somebody else who may have taken something into the test centre which will give them an added advantage, because once the test result is out there, there's an unfair advantage if somebody has managed to surreptitiously bring something into the test centre. So security is key to our test centres. We have all our test centres have CCTV coverage, and you might think, well, that's to check on the candidates, but actually it's more to make sure that our invigilators, our test centres, are at a level that we expect. So in some ways, we're actually monitoring our own test centres, our own staff, and we actually pay those people to monitor our candidates. So we do live CCTV, we do secret shops, where we send people in and get the results. We do regular what we call TOM audits, territory operation managers that are positioned around the globe that will go in and regularly visit these centres as well and do audits. The live CCTV is quite interesting. Well, and I do it as well, where I can actually go and log into a test centre. Say I want to go and have a look at Istanbul today. I can actually go in and watch the live testing of those candidates. And I say, we're not necessarily monitoring the candidates, but the processes that the test centre's following to make sure that they are following them correctly. At each test centre, we have what we call client practices. Similar, I think, again, to what Claire said, to make sure that the people, the check-in process, there might be different ID requirements for each client. They may be able to take in, some tests may allow calculators, for example, others tests don't. Some tests may allow textbooks to go in there. So again, client practices are written out to assist the invigilator to make sure that whatever goes into that test centre is approved and nothing else that goes there. Virtualized server, and again, I think kind of Claire touched on this as well with the BTL, was that all the servers, all the contents are on the servers within the test centres, obviously encrypted, in secure areas, in locked server cabinets with CCTV monitoring on those cabinets. But it does mean that if we have an internet failure, ISP issue, then we can still run those tests on that particular day. Less important maybe in the UK and the Western kind of world, probably a bit more important when we go to some of the other far-reaching cities that we test in. And then the booking and scheduling as well. So we tend to open the schedule at least 6 months in advance. As we say, all these test centres are continuously testing, if not every day, certainly a few times a week. It depends on the volume that's going through those test centres. But that schedule will be open, and it allows the candidates to go and book, whenever they want to within that opening schedule. If some clients have a particular booking windows, testing windows, then we have a tool that will allow us to block certain seats within that window. So if you want to test next April 10th to the 15th for a certain client, we can block some of those seats for that particular exam, so that when the candidates go online to book their tests, they know that they've got those slots, and we manage that capacity very closely indeed. Am I right in the right way? Yeah. So we talked about standardisation, and basically we have a standard process for all our test centres across the globe. There's 3 main areas that each centre will have. The first one being, you can see the waiting area. We've then got a proctor room here with a viewing window that the invigilators, proctors, TCAs, whatever you want to call them, will sit and view through the window the candidates taking the test. And then obviously the test centre itself. 3 pictures I've actually pulled. These 2 are actually our new test centre in New York. And you can see by the number of lockers here that it's actually quite a large test centre. Any test centre that we have that's over 80 seats, we call what we call a mega centre, and basically that's a very large centre, obviously, that we have that will test a lot of people every day. We currently have about 9 of those centres across the globe, upwards of 200 or 300 seats in some locations in India. 5 of those mega centres being in India. This is also New York, where we again say it's the proctor area. It's the quiet zone, the secure zone, where the candidates will come from the waiting area. We'll check their ID. We'll do all the security checks, whether that's through using metallic wands to make sure that they haven't got phones or any other electronic devices on them, and check for anything else to make sure that they're not going to take anything into the test centre, whether by mistake or intentionally. So it makes sure that that's the secure zone, and from there then they come into the test centre. We talked about maybe noise, so we do have headsets, we do have ear defenders if required for the centres. Obviously, for the candidates, we have booths so that they can't actually see other people's computers. You can see here the CCTV that covers, and we tend to have one camera that covers 2 workstations, so we get a really good view of the candidates, and we can actually see their desks, and we have numbers down here so we can actually see which workstation that we're viewing across there. And like I say, this is the India one. I think we had about 5 labs of about 50 seats in each of those labs. As I say, going back to the proctor room, we have the invigilator that's viewing through the window. But what we also do, they get a prompt every 9 minutes to actually go and do a walkthrough as well. So they'll come up and they'll actually walk through down each of the aisles. And it's not, we don't want to be obtrusive, but we're just going to walk through to make sure that if anybody's got any issues, they can hold their hand up and be dealt with. But what they do at each end of the test lab, we'll have a little fingerprint, a biometric fingerprint, and they'll click on that, and that's recording that they've actually done that walkthrough. And it's just that added bit of security and attention that gives us. I've talked about the secure check-in procedures. It's slightly different as far as ID for some clients, and say they look through the client practices to see what's required for each client. But the security check-in procedures is the same no matter what. We all want to make sure that there's no electronic devices or anything getting into that testing lab. And then we talked about ergonomics before. Some of our tests, some of them are 2 hours. I think the longest one is 9 hours. We want to make sure that if you sat in that test centre for 9 hours, you're going to be as comfortable as you possibly can be. Just sitting anywhere for 9 hours is hard work, and I'm sure you guys after 3 hours today, you're feeling it a little bit. So we need to make sure that from the chairs, from the mice and the keyboard, ergonomically is sound, and then from the AC point of view as well, make sure that it's a comfortable environment to spend 9 hours, probably 9 of the most important hours of your life in some instances, in that room. So we talked about global reach, and we have concentration coverage. This is where my wonderful map would have come in nicely, because I could have zoomed around the world for you. But and we've got test centres in every major city across the globe. But we also have concentrations, so we will, and that's dependent on the clients. So obviously the US, we have many clients. Japan, Ireland, UK, China, India, where we have concentrations of many test centres. And we're continually assessing that as well. So from a capacity point of view, we will monitor capacity on, if not a daily, a weekly basis. We have reports that come out, and we deem that anything above 85% is basically full, because what's that doing? That's restricting the availability to the candidates. So we say 85%, we don't want to go above that. And if we're getting close to that, say a month out, then we will try and open more dates within that current test centre. If that's continually happening, we realise that we then need to expand seats, so we'll then go and get extra seats. And then if need be, we will move test centres to get extra capacity. Currently, we're adding new cities on a quite a regular basis. Certainly, I've been working on a project where we've added quite a few in Canada. We've added Marseille, we've added Durban in the last few weeks. And I've got another 6 or 7 to add over the coming 4 or 5 months. Again, across the globe, South America, over in Korea, and all over the place. So we're always assessing capacity. We're always increasing capacity where it's needed, reducing it where it's not needed, and making sure we have that balance across the globe. So, just again, it's kind of replicating a little bit what Claire showed, but we do have. I've shown UK, Ireland, and just a bit of Northern Europe. The other slides the other program would have shown the globe, where you can see in some instances, like in Japan, in India, in Americas, where it's just you can't see the white, all you see is the blue dots all over the place. But you can see the concentration through certainly UK and Ireland. Within Ireland as well, we augment the static, what we call brick and mortar testing centres, which are physical centres. We also have in Ireland, for example, for one of the clients, a mobile testing option as well, where we have 7 mobile vehicles that travel around to, I think it's 25 locations, in addition to all the dots you can see here. And they go there on a set day at a set time, and actually the candidates go onto the vehicle and take the test physically on the vehicle. And it's the same place. It goes in, it's just like as though it was a brick and mortar there. It's just that it's on wheels, and that same test centre will then go to somewhere else in the following afternoon. So we have that flexibility that we use across the globe. And then I did have my little thing there, but we do have coverage, as Paul mentioned, 6,000 test centres across the globe, and we add test centres as required Similar kind of process to what Claire mentioned as far as recruitment. I look after the recruitment of test centres and the setup of test centres in EMEA, although I have got involved in other places across the globe. And we will recruit new third party, we have the mix of corporate centres, which are our own centres, which we own. We have our own staff in those centres. And if the volume's there, then obviously we will open those centres there. In other parts of the world where the volume maybe isn't quite as great, we will go with third-party partners. And Claire mentioned some of the partners that we actually share as well there. But if there's a need for capacity anywhere across the globe, then we'll make sure that we get the test centre there and up and running, ready for the test. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.